Hello, this is Elizabeth and Elton Brewington, Elizabeth Clare and Elton Brewington. And we are delighted. We met Erin earlier today, and wow, we were blown over. We had never heard of anyone doing what she does, and she has something that's very unusual. So I'm not going to take away the thunder, but go ahead, Erin, and introduce yourself. And you really have a solution for all our singles. So go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth and Elton, for having me. And thank you for creating this safe space where people are sharing some pretty personal things. I want to thank everyone who has shared so far. So thank you for creating that space. And speaking of creating spaces, I am the owner and founder of Seacoast Listening Lounge. I'm located on the seacoast of New Hampshire, but I'm virtual as well. This is a professional listening service for women, a safe and confidential space where women can share their stories, can share the overwhelm in a place where there is no judgment. And so I listen. My job is I listen. I'm a listener, a professional listener. And I started this really for two reasons. The first was I come from a legal background. I worked for nearly 17 years as a legal advocate on behalf of low income victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking in their high lethality, divorce, parenting, and protective order cases. So that means the clients I was working with were at significant risk or harm of injury or even death by their intimate partner. Um, and the women, it wasn't all women, but primarily women that came to me and told me their stories and trusted me enough to tell me their stories said, Erin, I'm telling people what's happening. I'm talking to police, I'm talking to prosecutors, I'm talking to friends, I'm talking to family. I don't know if I'm believed. I feel like no one's hearing me. I feel like no one is seeing me. And I I got that. In my core, I got that. And I was frustrated, like, why are we just not believed? And I myself am a survivor of child sexual abuse and later sexual abuse later in my life. And I didn't have a space where I could talk about it. I didn't know how to talk about it. I was so worried about how everybody else would feel if I did talk about it. There is guilt, there's shame. And then when you do tell your story, if the reaction isn't just compassion and empathy, like what do you do? And that's part of the reason why I feel like a lot of victims and survivors of domestic violence are not able to leave these relationships because they're not believed, they're not embraced. And so they're, often left to continue living in these violent situations. And they do it sometimes too to protect their family. So that was one reason why I started Seacoast Listening Lounge. The other reason is I went through a divorce myself and I did not talk about my divorce. I didn't tell anyone I was getting divorced. I was so worried about the judgment that I was going to get in my friend group. Like, he's such a nice guy. Why would you do that? Like, do you know he's a nice guy? There are things that we don't talk about because we want to protect our kids and we want to protect our relationships. And what happens if you don't go through with the divorce or separation and you've told everything? They're going to look at that person very differently, especially if you're all friends. So I didn't want that. I was also didn't have really my family to lean on because my dad was dying of early onset Alzheimer's. And I was like, I can't add more on the plate of my family. I can't. So I was looking for a place where I could unload, where I could vent, where I could share, where I could cry. And I didn't have to filter myself. I didn't have to wear a mask. I didn't have to be perfect and put together. And I wasn't looking for therapy. I'm very pro therapy, but that's not what I was looking for. I was just looking for someone to listen and not try to fix me and not judge my choices. And I couldn't find it. So last summer, I remarried and I was on the beach with my husband. And I said, I think I'm going to start this business where I just listen to women. And my husband says, I don't know if that's a thing. And I said, well, I am going to make it a thing. And so I did. I made it a thing. I've been in business for about a year now, and it hasn't been easy. I have no business background, um, but what has been incredible are the amazing and courageous women who have put their trust in me and who have told me their stories and have said, Erin, I've never told anyone else this before, or I don't think I can say this. And you can say it here. And I think it starts with this very simple framework of, how do you want me to listen to you today? That's a question I ask all of my clients. How do you want me to listen to you today? And they're shocked by that question because no one ever asks them. No one ever, we just assume how we're supposed to respond, and we assume what people want. This switches that, and it really puts it in their hands. Tell me, how can I listen to you? What can I do for you? And then tell me, and I am here for you, and this is your time, and this is your space, and you're safe.
Wow, wow, wow. Isn't that something we've never heard before? A listener? Oh my goodness. Thank you. You've been discovered on Brightside. Yes, give us some hearts. Give us
Thank
some
you,
love.
everyone.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. No one listens to me anymore, so go to Erin. What's your website, Erin?
SeacoastListeningLounge.com.
There you go. Seacoast Listening Lounge.com. So I love it. So thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you.